Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Daily Crypto Byte. Today is Friday, January 7th, and there was a bit of blood in the streets last night. Our sacred 42.5K level was desecrated last night, and we are now testing lower levels, but that's okay. We got some support here at around 40.8K, but we'll do some TA, also hit some headlines today for you guys as we enter into the weekend here. Before we dive into some things, CJ, how are you doing today, my friend?
Doing well. Major stock indices pretty much flat today, other than IWM up about 0.5%, but bouncing back a little bit after, a lot of fear, not only in crypto, but also in equity markets and traditional over the past couple days. So interesting to see how that plays into crypto. We're testing the lows. We'll see if we get a bounce from these particular levels. But yeah, a lot of fear, a lot of climactic selling. So interesting to get into the charts and discuss some news with you here today. How are you doing, Monty?
Yeah, I'm doing well, CJ. Glad it's Friday. We saw some interesting price action last night. One thing that, we talked a lot about at the end of the year last year was how perhaps we'd see a lightening up of the Asian sell pressure during Asian trading sessions, as China citizens were forced to, get rid of their Bitcoin before the end of the year there. But, last night we saw that there was a continuation of the price action showing that China doesn't tell the whole story of the Asian trading session. And, in fact, we did go below that 42.5K critical level. That being said, there were some alts that were hit harder. Some other alts actually held up okay, like Atom and Link. So we'll talk about that and a whole lot more. But you want to dive into some technicals to start off today's episode, CJ? You're muted.
Sure thing. All right. So going to Bitcoin on the daily chart, we have lost that bullish divergence in the RSI that we were talking about earlier last week. And prices, breaking that low, somewhat similar to how we kind of tested down in the summertime. I said this yesterday, but I'll say it again. It's just the thing that's a little bit troubling, and we could still have it, but we haven't had it yet. Is just this ability to like bounce from support, and you could see like we're seeing some really nice supply absorption and whale accumulation at those levels. Ever since it's kind of just been a slow bleed. It hasn't really been bought up relentlessly, kind of like this initial liquidation wick was. So, if we get some bullish price action, we'll see. But as of now, just kind of following the trend until it says otherwise. Same if you go to the weekly chart, you just look at kind of the 20 smooth moving average. And historically, what kind of tends to happen when we break below that level, obviously we got a little bit lucky in the summertime in this particular instance, just because we had a phase of accumulation. I don't know if we're necessarily going in and seeing similar instances to those levels. I'd say the one thing that is somewhat optimistic from the bulls, but is the sequential indicator, specifically on the weekly time frame. So, we are at an 8, and the next 2 days we will form a 9. However, those have been climactic in terms of like continuation and then a reversal. So, I think next week could go either way for the trend, but it's something that we're continuously monitoring, and something you just kind of got to be patient for and manage risk properly, because it's a kind of a conundrum right now where we are in terms of the overall market. I think the market's trying to still digest stock to flow, not really following the model. And so I just think the market is trying to digest a lot of that right now, and we're a little bit uncertain.
Yeah, we're definitely seeing some uncertainty, CJ, that's for sure. And I want to just quickly take a look at a bit more of a micro time frame here and just take a look at Bitcoin's hourly chart, because I think what we saw here actually was pretty interesting. And, like you said, CJ, one thing that was super important back in the summer was seeing those instances of supply absorption when we retested critical levels. And we saw that on a very, very small scale here. On the hourly chart, we saw some heavy sell pressure that was met with some buys, whether they be, limit buys being triggered at 42.5 or actual buyers stepping in here. It did provide, a very brief amount of relief here during this otherwise, pretty persistent sell pressure in the time that preceded it. And, sometimes we get a bounce from this level, But I think one reason why we didn't is because of the fact that there are still a lot of short-term holders that are underwater and are looking to capitulate. And because of the negative sentiment in the space right now, because of the tremendous fear, they are very quick to capitulate, and they will look for even the slightest bounce or the slightest sign of relief to take some profits and to secure some money that they had kind of written off as losses. So we did see some relief here, likely some bulls trying to get this thing back going in the right direction. But ultimately, I think that was met with sell pressure from short-term holders that were still underwater. And because of that, we had this, brief period of indecision before breaking down even further last night. So I still think we're experiencing some pretty tremendous sell pressure from short-term holders. Until that is alleviated, I think that, we're going to be in a bit of a precarious situation here. But, we are retesting some critical levels to the downside here now. If we break below 40K, then I do expect some of those short-term holders to start panic capitulating and really just, start selling, and that could cause some more blood in the streets. So this could be an interesting weekend. One thing that we do tend to see on these sort of weekends, CJ, is that, with the low volume, whenever it's trending in one direction, we tend to get a little bit of a relief in one direction or the other. I think that perhaps this weekend we could get some relief, but, I'm not exactly too sure.
I
Based
mean,
on
we've been due for relief for like the past 3 or 4 days. So yeah, we'll see how that plays out. You had some news though that you wanted to get to. Do you want to step in and discuss?
Yeah, yeah. Let's talk about some news real quick. I want to start off with this one headline. I found this one to be rather interesting, and that is regarding SRM, Serum. And we've talked a lot about Serum in the past, and this is Solana's major DEX. And one thing that is really interesting about the development of Solana in the past year is that they have been, tightly related with FTX. Sam Bankman-Fried, he helped start Solana, and as a result, many of SRM's devs and core contributors were actually just FTX employees. So now that Solana is become its own entity, it's separate from FTX. They are looking to make this a more independent ecosystem, and they recently received some funding, and they're going to use that to hire new devs, hire new core contributors, and also establish a ecosystem fund, which is emerging as a trend among these various layer ones. We saw it with Avalanche's Blizzard fund recently, $200 million fund, and we're seeing with a few others as well. So they have over 70 million in committed capital, and they're still taking in more investments now. And like I said, they're trying to further decentralize from the Alameda and FTX family. So I think that this is a good move to be making. Solana has been hit really hard over the past couple of weeks here, but SRM in particular has been kind of an interesting play to watch out for, given the the important role it plays in Solana's ecosystem, but ultimately the lack of price appreciation it's seen. Some of that has to do with the inflationary elements that are inherent of a decentralized exchange token. But I think some of it does have to do with the fact that it was largely centralized, had a lot to do with the fact that much of the contribution was coming from Alameda and FTX, and there wasn't really any reason for it to rise in speculative value. That may change now as it's becoming more decentralized, but we'll have to keep an eye on it because Solana is experiencing some pain in the interim. Any thoughts on this, CJ? I know you've been keeping an eye on SRM and Solana in the last couple months here.
Well, hopefully, as development increases, there will just be more demand and use cases for SRM. As of now, if you followed the SRM and Solana charts, like they are similar in their movements, but Solana has been way, higher in terms of outperforming on the upside. Whereas, there's slight demand within the ecosystem for things on Serum, like, Mango markets or whatever. But in many cases, to use things on Serum, the decentralized order book, you don't actually have to own it. So hopefully there will be more use cases that are kind of created because it just has not really had the demand other than things like yield farming, where you have, 250% APYs getting paid out in SRM. So obviously that has hurt the coin, much like Radium as well. They have very similar charts. So being two Solana dexes like that, yeah, I just think they need more use cases. And if that comes from further decentralization and a DeFi ecosystem being built out, then that will be good in the long term. But as of now, there's just not really enough demand for it. Thank you for sharing that, though, Monty. I hope you guys have a great day in the world, wherever you are. Monty, I'll leave it to you for the outro, my friend.
Thank you. Yeah, if you guys want to hang out with CJ and I over the weekend in the crypto community, you can do so at the link below me. You can try it for just $7 for the first week. We got a pro charting service, a 24/7 chat with a community of traders from all around the world, an extensive education curriculum with over 20 hours of content. We publish actionable trade insights with entries, exits, stop losses, and a whole lot more. So head over there and check it out. Like I said, you can try it for just $7 for the first week. And if you guys are looking for a place to hold or trade your crypto, we recommend you check out the sponsor of this show, Invest Voyager, where you can hold up to 60 plus assets, earn up to 12% interest on assets like DOT, 10% on assets like USDC. And if you head over there, use code REBEL25 when you sign up for $25 in crypto. But that's all we got for today. Please like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel. But we'll see you guys again on Monday. Have a great weekend.